Hi there, Sandra here from the Schwowin's Nest. Today I am bringing you another farmhouse thrift store flip. This is my absolute favorite thing to do, and I found some really great treasures at the thrift store a while back that I'm going to make over for you today. The first one is this cute little wood basket with the beads. It's just so on par with the trends nowadays. So what I'm going to do first is just tape off the beads because I'm going to leave them the brown color. I'm going for a couple of different looks in this video. So what I'm going to do first is paint this basket with Rust-Oleum chalk paint in the color charcoal. I love Rust-Oleum chalk paint. It goes on so nice and smooth. And for this project, I'm not too concerned about brush strokes, so I'm just using a fairly inexpensive brush that I picked up at the dollar store. The first distressing technique that I'm going to show you is dry brushing. You need paint for this, you need a little bowl or somewhere where you can dab off your paint, and you need a really rough, coarse brush. It can be a chip brush, it can be a dollar store brush. The one I'm using here is definitely from the dollar store. It has seen better days, but I keep it because of the dry brushing. Once you've got the paint on your brush, then you just go in the direction of the wood grain and just very lightly brush over your original coat until you get the desired look. You can go heavy with this, you can go lighter with this. On this particular project, I am going a little heavier than I normally do because I want some of this Serenity blue to show up against the charcoal. With dry brushing, you can add more colors to give the piece more dimension. The only thing you need to remember is just to let that dry brush coat dry completely in between. Otherwise, you're going to get blended paint instead of a dry brush look. Go ahead and use a bunch of different colors. If it doesn't turn out, that's okay. You can paint over it and start again. This little wooden shelf I picked up for $2.99 at the thrift store. It was a dark brown stain. I'm also just giving it one coat of the Rust-Oleum chalk paint in charcoal. I'm using a chalk paint brush and Rust-Oleum linen white chalk paint to paint the shelf, but I'm not going to paint the brackets. I want to leave the brackets dark for this project. I always use small brushes to get into the smaller areas where my big chalk paint brush won't fit. I don't have the patience for waiting for the paint to dry and then be able to use masking tape, which would give me a nice clean edge. But you know what? I'm all about the rustic look, so if something isn't 100% perfect, I'm okay with that. The second way I'm going to distress is using sandpaper. This one is a 40 grit. It's very coarse, so it's going to take a lot of paint off in a short amount of time. You can also use any type of sandpaper. You can use a fine grit or a medium grit. With this project, I want a lot of this paint to come off, so that's why I'm using the coarse grit. For this last project, I'm also going to use the charcoal as my base coat and then linen white for the top coat. I'd love to hear what distressing technique you think works the best. Let me know in the comments. For this project, just like the second one, I'm using my chalk paint brush to apply the second layer of paint. I don't want any brush strokes to show on this one because I won't be sanding it. I'm actually going to try a wet distressing technique a couple of different ways. If you're not familiar with wet distressing, it is a little bit like what it sounds. What you want to do is make sure that your piece is dry, but not all the way dry. And then you're going to use some type of wet material or damp material to pull the paint off in the spots where you want it to be distressed. What I'm using right now is a baby wipe, and I really like the way the texture of pulling the paint off. It kind of ended up being really blended and it looked really nice. I really enjoyed working with the baby wipe. I did have to turn it over and flip it over a couple of different times because when you're pulling the paint off, it does tend to clog the baby wipe and you've got paint on it, so you don't want to put the paint back on again. But I really enjoyed working with this. It's the first time I've used a baby wipe and I really like the effect of it. Another way to wet distress is just using a soft cloth that's damp with water and then running your finger across the areas that you want to distress. I've tried wet distressing with a soft cloth and water before, and I just found that I really had to work hard to get the paint to come off. So I'm really putting some pressure on this compared to how little pressure I needed to use with the baby wipe. I'm not sure if the difference has to do with the fabric itself. For the different textures, a baby wipe isn't really cloth. It's probably got some little bit of synthetic fibers in it or something a little bit different. And when I actually looked at my piece side by side, one half compared to the other half, I liked how the baby wipe distress turned out better than the t-shirt. So that's probably the way I'm going to go from this point forward. But again, you'll need to experiment and try different ways of wet distressing and see what you like best. I hope you enjoyed this tutorial today. If you did, please give me a thumbs up, comment, and share. Don't forget to hit that red subscribe button and the bell to get notified when I upload new videos. Thank you so much for watching. Have a great day.